we had mentioned that we had some exciting news that we wanted to share tonight. And we chose tonight because I wanted to be able to tell as many as possible personally. Since we've opened in 2004, we have placed 216 children for adoption into loving adoptive families. It's a great joy. And we have served over 600 pregnant women since opening. It may be from just one phone call, or it could be following them and working with them throughout their pregnancy if they place for adoption. And some of the birth moms we have actually worked with for 11 years. We stay in touch. If you're a birth mom here tonight, would you stand up so we can honor you? Let's see. We've also had the privilege of being a part of 832 families created by adoption, and that's because we've done their home studies, their education, their post-placement supervision. They've adopted with other agencies in other states, but because we're one of the only 8 Hague-accredited agencies in this big, wide state of Texas, we're able to have helped those 832 children find families of their very own. Each time we look at the families that God has created, we rejoice, and we are just so thankful to play a part in what God's doing to create families. And yet, I've got to tell you, this is a very difficult time in the world of adoption. International adoptions have actually declined 75% since 2004. That's staggering. And the regulations have increased, the costs have increased. Internationally, some countries have just closed adoption entirely, like Russia. And other countries have put new restrictions and limitations on international adoption, such as Uganda. And so it's been a very difficult time. As you can imagine, this affects all adoption agencies, and it can especially affect small agencies like ours. One of my favorite phrases in the Bible is, "but God," because we often see God just show himself strong and mighty in what seems like really difficult and unsurmountable experiences. And so we began to face these challenges and say, what do we know? We know that God's still in the business of placing children for adoption. He still places the lonely in families. He's in the business of creating families. And we know that our calling has not changed. He still has called us, his people, you and I, to care for orphans in their distress. We know that the reason Generations exists has not changed. We still exist to bring glory to God through adoption and through orphan care, and to see children find families to call their very own. And we know that the need hasn't changed. There are still just as many children out there that need a family, that need a mom and a dad. And so as our board began to face these daunting issues, in light of his strong calling for us to care for orphans in their distress, we knew that there was only one thing that we can do. We had to go to a time of prayer to seek God's face, to seek his heart, and to seek the direction that he had for us. And God had us right exactly where he wanted us to be, where we would have to seek him and to find out what his plan is. And so as he has us right there, we're open to his will, we're open to his way, and we're open to his purposes. And so I believe that God has showed us that he is leading us and is providing us a way where we weren't quite sure what that way would be. And it's a way not to just survive, but a way to thrive in this difficult times. A way that we can serve our families better, our waiting families who long to be parents, where we can better serve the birth mothers that come to us to make an adoption plan, and we can help more children find families. Only God can do that. Only God can bring a win-win situation out of what seems insurmountable. I remember the moment very clearly when David Littlewood, one of our board members, asked at the board meeting, is there another strong Christian organization we could work with, could partner with? And as we began to pray and ponder that, there was one agency that stood out head and shoulders above the rest, and it was Nightlight Christian Adoptions. I've actually known their founder, Ron Stoddard, for 8 years. We met because we were both founders on the National Christian Adoption Fellowship Board. When Ron retired, I met Dan, and Dan is their president. And I have found Nightlight to be innovative and creative in tackling the difficult times of adoption. And it has really stood out to me that Dan is a man of great conviction, and he's passionate for children, and he's passionate to have Nightlight be a distinctive Christian organization. Nightlight is a strong Christian organization, they're evangelistic, and they're pro-life. Our staff have gotten to know Nightlight well and got to know their staff because a few years ago, God opened up a strategic partnership with us for Nightlight when they invited us to participate in their China-Hong Kong special needs program, so families here in Texas would be able to work with Nightlight. One of the things that I especially like about Nightlight is they're an agency that says yes. They can say yes because they have 15 country programs. They can say yes because they have the resources that can put these things into place. And when there's a challenge, they've said, yes, we can do what it takes to make this adoption happen. They will find a way to make it happen. So I've been encouraged and refreshed, and it reminds me that God's promises are yes and amen, and that He is strong and mighty, and He fights on our behalf. So I want to tell you that what's begun as a partnership is now becoming an affiliation, and then it's going to become a joining, like a marriage and a merger. As of January 1st, God willing, we'll tie the knot with Nightlight, and we will become one. And what I love about working together with other Christians is I believe we can be one in spirit, we can be one in unity, and we can be stronger together than we were apart. God has given us an amazing opportunity to have access to a stronger, more robust system for support. And yet we're still able to maintain our uniqueness of who we are as generation and to maintain a good high bit of autonomy of who we are, and yet keep doing what we do best. And what we do best is maintain strong relationships with our families and with our birth moms and with the children and with our partners overseas. Our mission's going to remain the same. Our purpose remains the same. We're just going to expand and strengthen our agency. We're going to be Generations, a division of Nightlight. It's not an interruption at all, because we're actually just fulfilling our expression of our calling for adoption and our commitment to our mission. It's something that we're really leaning into to see how God will expand what He's doing through our efforts. All of our staff remain the same. All of our current staff will still be the people who you know, who you serve, who you love. Same office, same phone number, same ministry, same staff. And one thing that I really like is that our agency is going to be able to maintain all of our strong presence in Austin and Waco and Dallas and in Houston. And we're just going to be the Texas office of Nightlight. We're going to have so many more resources for our clients. You know, the past few years have been kind of discouraging because we've had to say no. I don't want to be a no agency. I don't want to say we don't have any spots for you. I don't want to say we don't have any open country programs. I want to be able to say yes, that we can help you. And you know, there's so many families that want to work with us. And if we have more country programs, if we have more exposure for more birth moms around the nation, then that can be a way that we can really serve and minister to our families. So now we're going to be able to say yes. And we're going to be able to give our waiting families more options for their adoption process. I expect to see a significant increase in adoptions because we'll be able to help more families in Texas. We'll be able to offer more country programs, and they have hundreds of waiting children that are waiting right now for a family. Just this week, I spoke to my pastor, John Durham, and our missions pastor, Jamie Hip. And Jamie said to me after our meeting that he was excited that Generations was going to have more options for our family. He doesn't know if God may call he and his wife to adoption in the future, but if they do, they want to work with Generations. And so this is a way that they would have lots of choices of how to adopt and still be able to work with Generations. And remember I told you about the ever-rising costs of adoption? Well, this is one way that can really help Generations reduce the overhead costs, because working together we can share some of those big significant costs like Hague reaccreditation fees and an audit and the bookkeeping and shared software and running an overseas program. And so it's going to be able to help us really significantly. I think we can work smarter, not harder. And so that excites me to see that we can do that. You know, Russell and I love Generations, and it's been a journey of love. I was a volunteer at CareNet years ago. I was executive director at CareNet for 15 years, and then God called us to found Generations, and we love Generations, and I'm excited about this merger. Life is all about change. I know Russell and I are doing stuff today that we never dreamed that we would do years ago. And we trust God with our future, even though we don't know necessarily what the future will hold. But I think that I will be involved somehow all of my life, serving birth mothers, serving orphans, working with the poor and marginalized and the oppressed. I just became a grandmother last week, 1 week, and I'm embracing that, new season of life. And Tony Dunn's not here today. He's an on-call OBGYN. But I was going to tell Tony that I've kind of felt like an on-call OBGYN for the last 15 years. I've worked every single holiday and at some point in time. And I'm kind of tired. I love Generations. I am thrilled for the merger with Nightlight. I support it 100%. I am Generations' biggest fan, but my role is going to be changing. I want to be a part of making the transition smooth and to go well. We're starting a process to find a new ED. And so I'm going to shrink my role and go into the back, hidden areas, and for a while I'll still be the licensed child placing administrator because I hold those credentials until the new ED can obtain those credentials. And I'm excited to see who that's going to be. I know that God has a person that he's calling, and he equips who he calls. And so I can't wait to see who that person will be. I want to still come to the gala. I'll probably volunteer. I want to still come to the Family Fun Day. I want to be Facebook friends with every one of you and all of our families, because y'all are like my family, and I think I'm going to miss the families most of all. So don't make me miss you too much. Like me on Facebook or however you do it. Send me a Facebook friend request and I will accept it. So it's not about the change. It's not about an interruption. It's about how God is going to grow us and give us new opportunities. And I am excited. I want you to hear from some other people. I want you to hear from David Littlewood, who's one of our board members, to tell you from a board perspective. And then we have a few other people to talk to y'all tonight. And then we're going to hear some testimonies of our birth mom and some of our families. So David, would you join us now and share from the board's perspective?